After one encounter, the billionaire CEO can't forget her and wants to make her his wife. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from right now? Please drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. It was never supposed to matter. That was what Ethan Carter, a billionaire chief executive officer known for never making emotional decisions, told himself as he stood alone in the quiet penthouse bedroom, staring out at the Manhattan skyline. The city lights stretched for miles below him, sharp and cold, just like the life he had carefully built. Yet for the first time in years, his thoughts were not on stock prices, board meetings, or hostile takeovers. They were on her, a woman whose last name he never asked for, a woman who walked out of his life before sunrise, a woman he had not been able to forget for a single night since. The encounter had been brief, unexpected, unplanned, and that was exactly why it haunted him. Ethan Carter did not believe in accidents. Every deal he closed, every company he acquired, every move he made was calculated down to the last dollar. But that night broke every rule he lived by. He had met her by chance, during a late evening meant to distract him from an upcoming board ultimatum. No cameras, no assistants, no security hovering nearby. Just two strangers sharing a moment that felt strangely honest. She was not impressed by his tailored suit or the watch on his wrist that cost more than most people's annual salary. She did not ask about his companies, his net worth, or his influence. She spoke to him like he was just a man, and that was what unsettled him most. By morning, she was gone. No note, no number, no expectation. Ethan told himself it was better that way. Yet days passed, then weeks, and the memory refused to fade. He found himself replaying her voice during meetings worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He dismissed senior executives because they interrupted thoughts he did not want to explain. The problem was not desire, the problem was control, and Ethan Carter was losing it. As if that was not enough, his life delivered a second blow. The board of directors made their position clear. A pending merger, critical to the future of his empire, required one thing he had deliberately avoided for years: marriage. Not love, not romance, stability. The investors wanted a public image of commitment, a wife beside him at galas, press events, and shareholder meetings. Someone to reassure the world that Ethan Carter was predictable, replaceable, contained. For the first time, Ethan realized the irony. He had spent his entire life treating relationships like contracts. Now he needed a contract that looked like love. And the only woman he could not stop thinking about was the one who had never asked for anything from him. That was when the thought formed, quiet but dangerous. If he could not forget her, if she already lived in his mind without permission, then maybe the solution was not to erase her. Maybe the solution was to make her his wife. Not for love, he told himself. Not yet. Just a contract, a controlled agreement, a temporary arrangement that would benefit them both. That was what he believed. But deep down, something inside him already knew the truth. Some encounters are not accidents. They are warnings. And Ethan Carter was about to cross a line that would change his life forever. She did not know his name, and that was exactly how Lena Morgan wanted it. 3 weeks after that night, Lena stood behind the counter of a small 24-hour cafe on the Lower East Side, counting the tips in a chipped ceramic jar. The numbers never changed much, a few dollars here, a few coins there, enough to get her through the day, never enough to feel safe. She worked double shifts when she could, 10 hours on her feet, sometimes 12. The smell of burnt coffee clung to her clothes long after she left work, riding the subway home to a narrow apartment she shared with silence and worry. Lena had learned early that life did not reward hope. It punished it. That night with him had been a mistake, a beautiful one, but still a mistake. She remembered how easily she had laughed, how natural it felt to sit across from a man who listened instead of measured her worth. How for a few hours she forgot to be careful. By morning, reality returned. Men like that did not exist in her world, and men who did exist always came with a cost. Lena had grown up watching her mother trust the wrong people. Promises that sounded kind, words that felt warm, all of them ending the same way. Empty bank accounts, empty rooms, empty apologies. She promised herself she would never repeat that pattern. So she left before dawn, quietly, cleanly, without drama. She told herself she did not look back. But that was not entirely true. Now, as she wiped down the counter, her phone buzzed with a reminder she did not need. Rent due in 4 days. The landlord was patient, but patience had limits. She checked her bank account. The balance stared back at her, unforgiving. Lena exhaled slowly. Love was not a luxury she could afford. That was when the door opened. The bell above it chimed softly, cutting through the low hum of late-night conversation. She did not look up at first. She was used to tired faces, night shift regulars, people passing through. Then she felt it, that same quiet shift in the air, the kind that did not make sense but demanded attention. Lena looked up, and her breath caught. He stood just inside the doorway, dressed simply this time. No suit, no polished edges, just a dark coat, his hands in his pockets, eyes searching the room until they found her. Ethan Carter. She recognized him instantly, even though she had never known his name. For a moment, neither of them moved. The past rushed in without permission. The city, the quiet, the way he had looked at her like she mattered. Her first instinct was to walk away. Her second was anger. He had found her. That meant he had resources she did not, connections she would never have, power. And power always came with expectations. Ethan approached the counter slowly, as if afraid she might disappear if he moved too fast. "I was hoping it was you," he said, his voice lower than she remembered. Lena straightened her shoulders. "You should not be here." "I know," he replied, "but I could not stop thinking about you." There it was, the sentence that used to make her heart soften. Now it only made her guard rise higher. "You should forget," she said quietly. "That is usually how these things work." Ethan shook his head. "I am not good at forgetting things that matter." She almost laughed at that. Men like him did not lose sleep over women like her. "Whatever you think happened," Lena said, "it does not change anything. I have a life, responsibilities. I am not here to complicate your life," he said. "I'm here because I need your help." That made her pause. She studied his face. There was no arrogance there, no charm for show, only tension. "What kind of help?" she asked. Ethan hesitated for the first time. "Marriage," he said. The word landed between them, heavy and impossible. Lena stared at him, convinced she had misheard. "You do not even know me." "I know enough," he replied, "and I will explain everything. But not here." She crossed her arms. "I am not for sale." "I am not asking to buy you," Ethan said firmly. "I am asking to make a deal." A deal. The word confirmed her worst fear. This was not romance. This was survival. And she already knew how dangerous deals with powerful men could be. Lena looked past him, at the clock on the wall ticking toward closing time, at the life waiting for her whether she chose it or not. She met his eyes again. "If I listen," she said slowly, "it does not mean yes." Ethan nodded. "That is all I am asking." And just like that, Lena realized something terrifying. Walking away had been easy the first time. This time, it would cost her far more. They did not go far. Ethan parked his car on a quiet street a few blocks from the cafe, where the noise of the city softened into a low, distant hum. The streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk, and for a moment, Lena stood beside the passenger door, wondering why she had agreed to follow him at all. This was a mistake, she told herself, but she had already made worse ones. Ethan turned off the engine, but did not get out right away. He rested his hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead as if organizing thoughts that were not easy to say out loud. "I am going to be honest with you," he began, "because anything less would be an insult." Lena nodded once. "Start there." "My company is in the middle of a merger," he said, "one that will decide whether thousands of people keep their jobs. The board of directors wants stability, a public image they can sell to investors." She listened without interrupting, her expression guarded. "They want me married," Ethan continued. "Not eventually. Now." Lena let out a short breath that was almost a laugh. "So you find a woman you barely know and walk into her workplace asking for marriage." "I did not plan it," he said. "I tried every other option. This was the one that would not leave my head." "That is not a compliment," she replied. "I know," Ethan said quietly, "but it is the truth." He turned toward her then, finally meeting her eyes. This would not be a real marriage, not in the way people mean it. It would be an agreement, a contract. The word landed with precision. Lena felt her stomach tighten. "You show up with me to events. You stand beside me. You play the role of my wife in public," he said. "In return, I make sure you are taken care of, financially, securely. There it was, the line she had drawn her entire life. I told you, she said, her voice firm, I am not for sale. Ethan shook his head. This is not that. You are not an object. You are a partner in a transaction. That is supposed to make it better? No, he admitted. It is supposed to make it honest. Silence stretched between them. Lena looked out the window at the darkened storefronts, at the reflection of her own face in the glass. She thought of the rent notice on her phone, the empty refrigerator, the future she had been holding together with discipline and exhaustion. And when it is over? She asked. There would be an end date, Ethan said. Clear, written. When the merger is finalized, we separate. No mess, no drama. No love, Lena said flatly. Ethan did not answer right away. That would be one of the rules, he said finally. Rules. She almost smiled at the irony. Men like him needed rules to protect themselves. Men like her needed them to survive. And what happens behind closed doors, she asked. Nothing you do not agree to, he replied immediately. Separate rooms, separate lives. This would not change who you are or what you want. She studied him carefully now. This was not desperation. It was pressure. He was a man backed into a corner, used to controlling outcomes, now asking someone with far less power to step into his world. Why me? Lena asked. You could find someone else, someone polished, someone who fits. Because they would all want something from me, Ethan said. You did not. That answer unsettled her more than any offer of money could have. Lena crossed her arms, grounding herself. If I say no, she said, what happens? Then I walk away, Ethan replied, and I respect that choice. She believed him. That was the problem. She had learned to recognize manipulation. This was not it. This was risk, and risk always had a price. I need time, Lena said. You have it, Ethan said, but not much. She nodded slowly. As she opened the door to step back into the night, Ethan spoke again. This would protect you, he said, from the things you are carrying alone. She paused, her hands still on the door. You do not get to decide what protects me, she said softly. Then she stepped out, leaving Ethan alone in the car, watching the one woman he could not control walk back into the dark. For the second time, he wondered if the deal he was offering would cost him far more than he was prepared to lose. Lena did not sleep that night. She lay on her narrow bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city drift through the open window. Sirens in the distance, a train rattling underground, life moving forward, indifferent to her hesitation. Ethan's words replayed over and over in her mind. A deal, an agreement, an end date. By morning, exhaustion had replaced fear with something colder, clarity. 3 days later, Lena found herself standing in the lobby of a glass tower that rose like a monument to wealth and certainty. Carter Global. The name gleamed in brushed steel behind the reception desk. This was his world. Everything here spoke the same language. Control, precision, power. She adjusted her jacket, suddenly aware of how small she looked against the marble floors and towering ceilings. An assistant escorted her upstairs without asking her name, as if her presence had already been decided. When the doors opened, Ethan was waiting. Not in a boardroom, not behind a desk, just standing by the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, looking like a man preparing for a difficult conversation rather than a victory. I am glad you came, he said. That does not mean yes, Lena replied. I know, Ethan said. It means you are listening. They sat across from each other at a long table. Between them lay a thin folder, the contract. Ethan did not slide it toward her. Instead, he spoke first. There are rules, he said. They protect both of us. Lena nodded. Say them out loud. Rule 1, Ethan began. This marriage exists only in public. We present a united front at events, meetings, and appearances. And in private? She asked. We live separate lives, he said. Separate rooms, separate routines. Rule 2, Lena said calmly. No emotional claims. Ethan hesitated, just long enough for her to notice. Yes, he said. No expectations of love, no promises beyond the contract. Rule 3, she continued. No control over my choices, my work, my time. You keep your independence, Ethan agreed. I do not interfere. She leaned back slightly. And when it ends? There is an exit clause, he said. Once the merger is finalized, the marriage dissolves quietly. No scandal, no retaliation. No revenge, Lena added. None, Ethan said firmly. She studied his face, searching for cracks, for signs of arrogance or entitlement. She found none, only tension. Why are you doing this so carefully? She asked. Because this is the one thing I cannot afford to get wrong, Ethan replied. Lena reached for the folder then. She read every page, every clause, every word. The numbers were there. Security, a place to live, stability she had never known. But what held her attention were the lines that limited him. He had bound himself as tightly as he had bound her. When she finished, she closed the folder. This does not make us equals, she said. No, Ethan admitted, but it gives you leverage. She appreciated that honesty. Add one more condition, Lena said. Ethan looked up. Name it. If you ever use this marriage to humiliate me, control me, or make me feel small, she said slowly, I walk away. Contract or not. Ethan did not hesitate. I agree. A pen rested between them. The room felt suddenly smaller. This was not romance. This was not fate. This was a calculated step into uncertainty. Lena picked up the pen. I am doing this for survival, she said, not for you. I would expect nothing else, Ethan replied. She signed. Ethan signed after her. The sound of the pen against paper echoed louder than she expected. When it was done, Ethan closed the folder. Then we are agreed, he said. Yes, Lena replied. On paper. As she stood to leave, Ethan spoke again. For what it is worth, he said, I will not pretend this is easy for me. Lena paused at the door. It should not be, she said. If it were easy, it would already be a lie. She walked out, contract signed, future uncertain. Neither of them said what both were already beginning to understand. The marriage might be fake, but the consequences would be real. The transition happened faster than Lena expected. One week, she was finishing late shifts at the cafe, counting coins before boarding the subway. The next, she was stepping into a quiet townhouse on the Upper East Side, keys placed in her palm like something fragile. This is temporary, she reminded herself as the door closed behind her. Temporary had become her favorite word. The house was elegant without being loud. Neutral colors, clean lines, no personal photographs, no warmth pretending to be something it was not, just like the marriage. Ethan did not move in. That was part of the agreement. He kept his penthouse. She kept her space. The house was hers alone, protected and distant, as if the walls themselves understood the rules. The first public appearance came quickly. A charity gala at a museum overlooking the river. Black tie, cameras waiting. Lena stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back. The dress fit perfectly, tailored without excess. Simple, controlled, not a costume, a role. Ethan arrived precisely on time. When he extended his arm, he did not rush her. He waited. She took it. The cameras flashed instantly. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, someone called out. The title landed heavier than the contract ever had. Inside the event, Lena learned the rhythm quickly. Smile. Pause. Listen more than speak. She noticed how Ethan adjusted his pace to match hers. How he placed a subtle hand at her back when crowds pressed too close. How he never interrupted when she spoke, even when others tried to. These were not romantic gestures. They were respectful ones. And somehow, that mattered more. Over the next few weeks, the pattern continued. Board dinners, interviews, private meetings where her presence changed the temperature of the room. People leaned in when she spoke, listened, not because of who she was, but because of where she stood. Ethan watched it happen with quiet interest. He had expected resistance, awkwardness, a need to instruct. Instead, Lena adapted with a calm confidence that unsettled him. She asked questions he had not prepared for. She noticed details others missed. She treated assistants and executives with the same steady respect. One evening, after a long event, they rode down in the elevator together. The silence was different now, not tense, not empty. You handled that well tonight, Ethan said. I did what was required, Lena replied. That was more than required. She looked at him briefly, then away. Compliments are not part of the contract. I know, he said. Consider it an observation. At home, Lena removed the dress and returned it to its place, careful not to linger in front of the mirror. She reminded herself why she was here. Security, stability, an end date. Still, there were moments she did not expect. Late nights, when Ethan sent a message reminding her to rest. Quiet mornings when fresh groceries appeared without comment. A legal team that treated her boundaries as law. None of it felt transactional, and that was the danger. At the same time, Ethan felt the shift. His days were unchanged. Meetings, negotiations, pressure from every direction. Yet something in him had settled. He slept better, focused longer. He found himself looking forward to events not because of strategy, but because she would be there. This was not part of the plan. He reminded himself of that often. The marriage was fake. The connection was not supposed to be. But one evening, after a long charity dinner, they stood together on the townhouse steps. The city hummed around them, distant and indifferent. For a moment, neither spoke. "We are doing better than expected," Ethan said quietly. Lena nodded. "That does not mean we forget why this exists." "No," he agreed. "It means we stay aware." She met his eyes then. "Do not mistake my composure for attachment," she said. "I would never," Ethan replied. They both knew that was only partly true. As Lena stepped inside and the door closed behind her, Ethan remained on the sidewalk, staring at the door longer than necessary. The role was working. The image was perfect. And for the first time since signing the contract, both of them felt the same unspoken realization forming beneath the surface. Pretending was becoming harder. Not because the marriage felt fake, but because it was starting to feel real. The change did not arrive all at once. It came quietly, in moments neither of them had planned for. Late one evening, after a private board dinner ran longer than expected, Ethan found himself sitting in the back of the car beside Lena as rain traced slow lines down the tinted windows. The city blurred past, lights stretching and dissolving like unfinished thoughts. Neither spoke at first. The driver turned onto a quieter avenue, and the silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but heavy. "You do not have to come to everything," Ethan said finally. "I can handle some of these alone." Lena kept her eyes on the window. "The contract says public unity." "That was written for appearances," he replied, "not exhaustion." She turned to look at him then, surprised by the concern she heard in his voice. "I am fine," she said. "I have handled worse." Ethan did not doubt that, and that realization unsettled him. Later that night, Lena returned to the townhouse with a dull ache behind her eyes. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her bag by the door, and leaned against the wall longer than necessary. This life was easier than the one she had left behind. That was what frightened her. Her phone buzzed softly, a message from Ethan. "Did you get home safely?" She stared at the screen. This was not part of the agreement. "Yes," she typed back after a moment. Another pause. Then, "Good. Get some rest." She set the phone down, her chest tightening with a feeling she refused to name. The following weekend, a storm knocked out power across part of the city. The townhouse went dark just after sunset. Lena lit candles, moving carefully through unfamiliar shadows. She was halfway through heating soup on the gas stove when the doorbell rang. She froze. No one came here unannounced. When she opened the door, Ethan stood there, rain-soaked, jacket slung over one arm. "The power is out at my building," he said. "I wanted to check on you." "You did not have to," Lena replied. "I know." She stepped aside without thinking. They sat at the kitchen table, candlelight flickering between them. The setting felt too intimate, stripped of cameras and expectations. "You never talk about your family," Ethan said quietly. Lena stiffened. "That is not relevant." "I am not asking out of obligation," he replied. "I am asking because I want to understand who I married." The word landed softly, but it carried weight. She looked down at her hands. "My father left when I was young," she said. "My mother worked herself into the ground trying to keep us afloat. I learned early not to depend on anyone." Ethan listened without interruption. "When she trusted the wrong people, we paid for it," Lena continued. "So I stopped believing promises." Silence followed. "That is why you left," Ethan said gently. "That night." She nodded. "I could not afford to believe it meant more than it did." He leaned back slightly, processing her words. "I have spent my entire life believing control was safety," Ethan said. "If I planned well enough, nothing could hurt me." "And now?" Lena asked. "And now I am realizing control only works until it does not." Their eyes met across the table. The rules were still there, unbroken, But something beneath them had shifted. Later, as the power flickered back on and the storm eased, Ethan stood to leave. "This does not change anything," Lena said quickly, as if reminding herself as much as him. "No," Ethan agreed. "It just explains more." At the door he paused. "You do not owe me trust," he said, "but I will not abuse what little you have given." She believed him. That was the dangerous part. After he left, Lena stood alone in the quiet kitchen, heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Across the city, Ethan returned to his penthouse, restless. The marriage was still in agreement. The rules were still intact. Yet both of them knew the truth they refused to say out loud. The hardest part of a fake marriage was not pretending. It was realizing you no longer knew where the act ended and the truth began. The invitation arrived without warning. A formal charity gala hosted by Carter Global, attended by investors, board members, and press from every major financial outlet in the country. It was meant to celebrate the near completion of the merger. It was also the night everything broke. Lena sensed it before they even arrived. The ballroom was larger than usual, brighter, filled with a sharper kind of attention. Conversations paused as Ethan and Lena entered together. Smiles lingered a second too long. Eyes followed them with interest that felt less curious and more calculating. Ethan noticed it too. "Stay close," he murmured. Lena nodded, her posture steady, her expression composed. They moved through the room as they always did. Polite greetings, brief exchanges, cameras flashing. Then she saw her. Victoria Hale, a senior board member, powerful, impeccably dressed, and smiling in a way that never reached her eyes. Victoria approached with practiced ease, champagne flute in hand. "Lena," she said warmly, "you look lovely tonight." "Thank you," Lena replied. Victoria turned to Ethan. "May I borrow your wife for a moment?" It was phrased as a courtesy. It was not a request. Ethan hesitated. "If it is quick." "Oh, it will be," Victoria said. They stepped aside, just far enough to be seen, but not heard. "I assume you know why I wanted to speak with you," Victoria said. Lena met her gaze. "No." Victoria smiled thinly. "Your marriage." The word felt suddenly sharp. "You see," Victoria continued, lowering her voice, "some of us have been asking questions, background checks, timelines." Lena felt the air leave her lungs. "And it appears," Victoria said calmly, "that your relationship with my colleague began rather suddenly, almost conveniently." "What are you implying?" Lena asked. "That this marriage may not be what it appears to be?" The music swelled behind them. "I am his wife," Lena said evenly. "For now," Victoria replied. "But contracts have a way of surfacing." Lena's heart pounded. "You would not," she said. Victoria's smile widened. "Watch me." The lights dimmed slightly as the master of ceremonies took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "before we continue, we have a brief statement from the board." Lena turned toward Ethan. He was already looking at her. Something was wrong. Victoria stepped onto the stage. "Transparency is the foundation of trust," she said into the microphone. "And tonight, we believe our investors deserve clarity." Murmurs rippled through the room. Victoria gestured toward the screen behind her. A document appeared. The contract. The words blurred before Lena's eyes. Gasps filled the ballroom. "This marriage," Victoria continued, "was entered under contractual obligation, not love, not commitment." The silence that followed was brutal. Lena felt exposed, reduced, stripped of dignity she had fought to protect. She turned to Ethan. His face had gone still, controlled, dangerously calm. "This was not supposed to happen," he said quietly. The room buzzed with whispers. Cameras turned toward her. She felt every eye judging her, measuring her worth, assigning motives she never claimed. Gold digger, opportunist, pretender. Lena straightened. She did not wait for Ethan to speak. She stepped forward, then stopped. No, she turned away. Walking out felt like the only choice that still belonged to her. She removed the ring and placed it gently on the nearest table. Not dramatic. Final. "I am done," she said softly. She left the ballroom without looking back. Ethan stood frozen as the doors closed behind her. The damage was done, but the real test had only just begun. Because for the first time in his life, Ethan Carter faced a decision no contract could solve. Power or her. And this time, choosing wrong would cost him everything. The boardroom was silent, not the polite silence of agreement, but the kind that came when power shifted and no one was ready to acknowledge it. Ethan stood at the head of the table, hands resting flat against the polished surface. Around him sat the same people who had shaped his career, approved his decisions, and benefited from his discipline. Victoria Hale watched him closely. "The damage is contained," she said. "We can issue a statement, distance the company from the situation, proceed with the merger." Ethan did not respond. "Your wife has already removed herself," Victoria continued. "This does not need to escalate." That word landed wrong. Removed. As if Lena had been an inconvenience, a variable corrected. Ethan slowly straightened. "No," he said. The room stiffened. "No?" Victoria repeated. "No statement," Ethan said. "No distancing. No merger." A murmur swept through the table. One of the senior directors leaned forward. "You are willing to walk away from a deal worth billions over a failed arrangement?" Ethan met his gaze. "It did not fail," he said. "It revealed the truth." Victoria's expression hardened. "Be careful. You are risking everything." Ethan nodded once. "I know." He reached into his jacket and placed a document on the table. The contract. "This ends now," he said, publicly. He tore it cleanly down the center. The sound echoed louder than any raised voice. "This marriage began as a contract," Ethan continued, his voice steady. "But it ends because I refuse to hide behind one." "You are making an emotional decision," Victoria said sharply. "Yes," Ethan replied, "for the first time." He turned and walked out, ignoring the voices rising behind him. Across the city, Lena sat alone in her apartment, the ring resting on the table beside her. She had not cried. She had learned long ago that tears did not protect you. Her phone buzzed. Once, then again. She did not answer. A knock sounded at the door. She froze, then stood, heart pounding, and opened it. Ethan stood in the hallway, tie loosened, eyes tired, no security in sight. "I ended it," he said immediately. "The merger, the contract, all of it." "That does not fix what happened," Lena replied. "I know," Ethan said. "I am not here to fix it. I am here to take responsibility." She crossed her arms. "You should have stopped it." "I should have," he agreed. "And I did not. That failure is mine." Silence stretched between them. "I am not asking you to come back," Ethan said. "I am asking you to hear me." She hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, the apartment felt smaller than she remembered. "I asked you to marry me because it made sense," Ethan said. "Because it was efficient, controlled." "And now?" Lena asked. "Now I am asking you because I cannot imagine standing anywhere without you," he said. "And because if you walk away, it will be my loss alone." She studied his face. No defenses, no leverage, no offer, only truth. "I will not be your image," Lena said. "I will not be your shield." "I do not want either," Ethan replied. "I want you, with a choice." She exhaled slowly. "You broke the contract," she said. "Yes," Ethan said, "on purpose." Lena looked at the ring on the table. Then she pushed it toward him. "I do not want that version of us," she said. "If there is anything left, it starts without paper." Ethan nodded. Agreed. He did not reach for her. He waited. That was when Lena realized something had finally changed. For the first time, Ethan Carter was not trying to control the outcome. He was choosing her, and leaving the choice where it belonged, in her hands. The weeks that followed were quiet. Not empty, but intentional. Ethan stepped back from public life, letting statements speak where his presence once dominated. The merger dissolved cleanly, headlines moving on faster than anyone expected. The world did what it always did. It kept turning. Lena returned to her routine slowly. Morning walks, work she chose for herself, conversations that were not measured by cameras or contracts. They did not rush toward each other. That was the difference. Ethan did not call every day. He did not send flowers. He did not arrive with grand gestures meant to overwhelm. He waited. When they met again, it was not at a gala or a boardroom. It was at a small park overlooking the river. Late afternoon sunlight warming the benches as people passed without looking twice. Ethan arrived first. When Lena approached, he stood, not out of obligation, but respect. They sat side by side, leaving space between them. "I am not here to ask you for anything," Ethan said. "I only wanted to tell you something." Lena listened. "I spent my life believing leadership meant control," he continued. that love was a distraction from progress. You showed me that leadership without integrity is empty. She said nothing. I am rebuilding, Ethan said. Not my company, myself. He turned to her then. If you choose to walk away, I will understand. If you choose to stay in my life, it will be as my equal. No image, no protection, no conditions. Lena looked out at the water, watching it move steadily forward. She thought of the contract she once signed to survive, the ring she had returned to protect herself, the choice she had been denied for so long. I do not want a man who needs me, she said finally. I want a man who chooses me, even when it costs him. Ethan nodded. That is who I am trying to become. Silence followed, comfortable and unforced. When Lena reached for his hand, it was deliberate. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. They did not announce their decision. They lived it. Months later, they stood together again, this time in a quiet gallery space filled with soft light and familiar faces. No press, no shareholders, no obligations, just people who mattered. There was no contract on the table, no lawyer waiting nearby. Ethan held a simple ring, not expensive, but chosen. This time, he said, voice steady, there are no terms, no end dates, no escape clauses. Lena smiled. That is the only version I accept. When they married, it was not an event. It was a promise. Ethan did not gain stability from a wife. He earned it by becoming worthy of one. Lena did not marry into wealth. She married into choice. As they stood together, hands intertwined, the past no longer defined them. The contract that once bound them was gone. The marriage that remained was real, because it was not built on power, pressure, or appearances. It was built on truth, and the simple understanding that love, when freely chosen, is the strongest commitment of all. The marriage was fake, the love was real, and this time, they both chose it.